Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to ADV in Japan. Today is the first video in a series of videos I'll be releasing where I'm going to be discussing the preparation for my Hokkaido trip here coming up. If you want to check out some of the other videos that I have for this preparation, I've got a gear video where I discuss some of the gear that I'm going to be taking, the gear that I'm going to be riding with, as well as wearing. So you can check that out. I also go over the camera gear that I'm going to be using to capture all the footage. And then finally, I discuss some of the upgrades and downgrades actually that I've done to my bike to make it more appropriate for this long distance traveling. So definitely click any of those links there and you can find out more information about that. In today's video, as the title suggests, I will be showing you kind of just a quick tour of my route here. And I'll also be kind of showing you how I plan these routes out. Now, what I'll be showing in this video is certainly applicable to any adventure that you guys want to go and do, but I'll definitely have some exclusive tips here that really pertain to Japan. So, just to get straight out of the gate here, I use Gaia GPS. This is an online web-based GPS map-making application. Several of you probably have heard of it or you use it. It's pretty good application. There are several out there that work well. I know people that just use Google Maps. That works quite well too as well. I just like this for its ease of use. It's very, very easy to use. And it's specifically designed for hikers and also people that do off-roading too as well. And the maps are generally updated. They're pretty high speed and up to date. So that makes things a lot easier as well too. All right, so what you see here obviously is Hokkaido, and this is the northernmost island of Japan. For those of you that don't know, if you are an adventure rider, you certainly know what Hokkaido is. This is on the bucket list of almost every single adventure rider, and it certainly has been on my bucket list for quite some time as well. And finally, I'll be making this happen. And I'm sure this is going to be the first of several trips to Hokkaido. This initial trip here should be pretty exciting here. But as you can see, I'm doing this in 7 days, so it will be breakneck speed. I'll be covering roughly 1,200 miles in total. I believe, yeah, about 2,200 kilometers in total. I think there's around maybe 300... I want to say maybe 300, 350 kilometers total in off-road riding. And as you can see, I've ignored a couple sections here. Obviously, the western half, for those of you that have never been to Hokkaido before, this is kind of the touristy area. This includes places like Hakodate, which has lots of really expensive hot springs, and people like to vacation there. And then obviously the major Sapporo region. I'm also ignoring the southern peninsula here. I just don't have time to get to it, maybe next time in a future trip. So let's go ahead and discuss how I've kind of devised this track and, you know, kind of fine-tuned it to what I think is going to be quite an exciting adventure. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so obviously every adventure starts with an idea. And my idea really is I really wanted to capture three main elements of Hokkaido. I wanted to capture, obviously, the beautiful nature of Hokkaido. I wanted to make sure to capture the indigenous Ainu culture, and then also get some of the amazing food, seafood that you can get up in this northern region. So what I do is when I start an adventure, I obviously, with that idea in mind, I'll get on Google and I'll start searching around, you know, just like anybody else, just looking at the top 10 places, top 20 places. And I'll look at both local websites in Japanese and also people that have, you know, traveled to Hokkaido from abroad too as well. And I get kind of a broad-based idea of where I want to go. And I start putting those waypoints on the map. And so, you know, the waypoints you're going to see here are probably way more than I would ever begin with. These are actually all the waypoints that I've finalized for the entire trip. More than likely, the first time around when I'm looking for spots that I want to go to, there's only going to be maybe a dozen or so waypoints. And those dozen or so waypoints are going to give me a rough idea of where I want to go on my trip. And so based on that, I start planning out my routes. And you can see that my routes roughly follow all the waypoints here, obviously. And then once I get a kind of decent route, and obviously the initial route that I have is not going to be as fine tuned. It's going to be mainly on, main roads and whatnot. And then I slowly kind of go through each route and just kind of finely tune it. But before I do that, I try to think about how many days that I really want to take out of this trip. And based on the route that I have here, obviously I could probably take 2 weeks to do this if I really wanted to do it slow. Unfortunately, I don't have 2 weeks to do this. I have about 7 days, maybe 8 days if I really needed to stretch it. And that's an important thing too, is when you're planning a trip, make sure that you have maybe a day or two, depending on how long the trip or how intensive it is or how far away you are from your home country. Make sure that you give yourself at least a few days on the back end in case of emergencies, if you need to stretch things out. So just clear your schedule for a little bit more than what you've actually initially planned for. And so I've done that. I think I've got about an extra day, maybe another day too as well, before work starts. And so I'll go through and I'll break this up into days. And I have about 7 days, as I mentioned. That's about 350 kilometers per day. That's quite a bit for me, actually. And it's quite a bit for driving in Japan, too, as well. For those of you that have ridden in Japan, maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. But definitely for those of you who live in Japan and drive in Japan, it is a very different experience. I would say it's slightly more stressful. So it's a lot. It's quite a bit of driving. And if I include all the filming and all that stuff that I need to do, it certainly is going to be a pinch. So if you're going to do Hokkaido, I would certainly give yourself, and especially if you're going to be doing this much, I would give yourself more than 7 days. But such are the circumstances for me. So when I plan out my route days, I make sure that I end in a large or somewhat large city area that has several options for lodging. So that includes campsites, maybe perhaps some hotels, some Japanese exclusive minshuku, what they call minshukus, or kind of bed and breakfasts. And so, when I start planning my, hotel stays and make my reservations, that way I have many to select from. I have many places I can choose from. And also, if things go awry and I arrive late or I arrive early or I delay my trip a day, I can either change reservations or I can cancel reservations. I can change to a campsite. I can change to a hotel. So it's really important to make sure that you're in an area where you can certainly make those adjustments. And so as you can see on my first day here, I end up stopping in Obihiro, which is kind of a larger, one of the largest cities down in the southern region of Hokkaido. And I'll go ahead and turn on my waypoints here. Good. So so we've got day one here. And just with day one, I can kind of show you how I've planned out these waypoints and looked at stuff. So once I get all my days planned out, then I'll go into each day and I'll start moving the route in the places that I want to go, the sightseeing areas. And what I'll do is I will expand my search area to kind of this, Hokkaido has several regions, kind of like prefectures or like states. And so what you could do is you can focus your search on those areas. And typically, if you focus it down into a specific smaller area, then you can find more kind of hidden gems and such and whatnot. Now, this first day, day one, is pretty short. It's 216 kilometers, and that is because I will be arriving in Tomakomai, which is the ferry port, very late the following day at 1300. So that means I've got a bit of a late start. And because of that, this day one is a little bit shorter than most of the other days. Most of the other days, I'm over 300 kilometers per day. And so that's something I had to plan out. It's probably something that you're going to want to plan out too your first day, depending on when you arrive at the airport or if you decide to take the ferry into Tomakomai. So getting into some of the more detailed stuff on this route. So how do I find this off-road stuff? Many of you have probably seen some videos on YouTube, or you've seen some websites that have some general routes, or perhaps you visited a company website that offers routes. And those are kind of cookie cutter routes. They're going to give you pretty much 100% on-road. Pretty much nothing is going to be off-road. And they kind of just take you on the main highways. And I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. I'm an off-road adventurer. I want to get off-road. And so all this black here you see are all the off-road tracks that I have devised and found based on my research. One of the best ways to look for these off-road routes certainly is to get into the map itself. You know, you can see these off-road routes here, stuff like this. But one thing you need to be careful about, certainly more so than other countries, is that a lot of times these roads are closed off for just very arbitrary reasons. You know, I've ran into signs that are like 10 years old and they say like, you know, I don't know, typhoon like 15 from 2015 caused some damage to this road and it's been closed. And, you know, so oftentimes it'll be closed here, like right at the beginning, and you're lucky and you just turn around. Sometimes it'll be closed like right at the end and you got to go all the way back, backtrack and come all the way back around. And so in order to make sure that you don't run into those situations, I definitely encourage you picking up the best touring maps available in Japan. And these are provided by a company called Maple, and it's powered by Root, which is a mapping software. But I think it's Maple, actually. I'm not sure. Anyways, Maple creates books for all different regions of Japan, Hokkaido included, and this is specifically designed, as you can see on the cover, for adventure riders. And I use this book all the time. I have one for Kanto, I have one for Hokkaido. I'm sure I'm going to be picking up other books for other regions as I do trips. And the reason why is because these guys actually go out to the locations, and this is updated to 2023, and they will tell you whether or not these off-road sections are closed. If they are not written on the map, you can assume that they are either closed or they're not like ready for people to ride on them, and you probably shouldn't go on them. And so if I find an off-road section that I really like, then I will make sure that I look it up in my physical map book and make sure that it is written there, and I check the notes in there as well too. Now, this is in Japanese. However, it's a map. You don't need Japanese to read a map. It's really simple. And if you do need Japanese to read it, get out your Google Translate app and just pop your camera out and you can translate the entire thing. It's as simple as that. So that's kind of how I go ahead and confirm my off-road routes and make sure that they're still open. Another site that I use to confirm, you know, off-roads, whether or not the off-road sections are open, is rindo21.com. Now, obviously, this is a Japanese website, but you know, it's great. I mean, you can definitely see the condition of the roads. Again, you can use Google Translate. You can translate these pages really simply, and you can find out what you need to look for. I read Japanese, so it's not a big issue for me, but this is very, very helpful. They give you pictures of the actual off-road sections, maps, all that stuff. Okay, so obviously, as I mentioned, I'll be stopping in Obihiro, possibly Ikeda, which is the town just over here. And you can see my waypoints here. I've got several mapped out. I have my gasoline locations mapped out too, just to be safe. You know, there's not a whole lot of gas stands available in Hokkaido, and the ones that are typically are closed at around 6 o'clock, maybe 7, 8 o'clock. They're very rarely open until 24 hours unless you're in the main like Sapporo area or Tomakomai. And you can see I've got several places, lodging places available here. This is the first place that I'll be staying at, and this is, I don't know if this is exclusive to Japan. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But Writer House cafes, these writer houses are really interesting experiences from what I've heard. I've never been to one, and I'm really looking forward to it. They're very, very inexpensive. They allow you to stay for anywhere from, you know, $10 a night to maybe $20 a night at most. And oftentimes they'll have some food available, maybe a bar as well too. But the really interesting kind of unique aspect of these is the people that run these writer houses have tons of knowledge and information, and you can confirm your tracks, your trips, your off-road destinations, anything with these people. And again, you know, you don't need to speak Japanese. There's technology out there. You can use Google Translate, and you can just figure it out. And they will have just vast amounts of information to tell you, and beautiful spots maybe to visit. So if you do come to Hokkaido or anywhere around maybe Japan, but particularly Hokkaido, these rider houses are famous. Definitely stay at one of these rider houses at the beginning of your trip so you can get some great advice from these people. And this is just kind of an overview of, you can kind of see, what it looks like here. I'll just get a couple photos. So this one is kind of a bunk bed setup here. They have covered, parking. Ugh, it just is amazing. Really good food, looks like. Great, they have a washing machine too. So I have a reservation here. Now, if this fails, or I just feel like, you know what, I want to go camping. It's a beautiful night, stars are out. I want to get some time lapses. I've got a campsite here, a Tokai Ranch House, which I confirmed they have several openings on that night. I mean, they're almost fully open. If I feel like I want to stay at a campsite, I can go ahead and cancel the reservation for that rider house and just stay here. Now, there's a couple other waypoints I have in here that are certainly, I encourage you to put in coin laundry locations. Those are really awesome. Just being able to have clean gear. Nobody likes riding in nasty, dirty gear. Well, some people do, and I don't understand them. The other thing, too, is actually throughout this entire map, I have locations for KTM kind of registered mechanics, places where I can take my bike and they will be able to do basic maintenance on my bike, chain maintenance, probably an oil change, fixing flats and things like that. I do have a flat repair kit, but if things got really, really bad, then I could go to some of these places and they would be able to service my bike. It's also something that I like to do. It just gives me a peace of mind. I don't have to think about anything. So that kind of concludes like a single day. And I just repeat this for the entire 7 days. And it just ends up working out pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and show you just kind of an overview of the trip here and kind of how I've got this laid out and what you can expect from my footage once I start putting all this stuff together. Okay, so on day one, like I mentioned, this is just going to be a low-key trip. I've got a couple off-road sections here, but I think the highlight of it is going to be this rider house. I'm really interested to see what this rider house has to offer. So that should be pretty exciting. Day two, I'll get an early start. This is going to be a pretty long day. I've got about over 300 kilometers on this day two route. There we go. It's 325 kilometers in total. I do have, again, I think the highlight for this is going to be this super forest road here. Should be pretty cool too as well. I've got some amazing filming locations down here in this area. There's an absolutely beautiful little stretch of off-road here that should offer some pretty amazing views. And then I'm going to be ending my day here in a hotel. It's going to be a Minshuku actually down here, down south. I got to adjust my route for that. The Minshuku, again, is just a bed and breakfast in Japan. You're basically staying kind of at somebody's house. I can show you what it looks like. Again, they have amazing food, so it should be pretty good. This is pretty legit. It is a house, but it looks like they do have kind of like a little area, like a reception area and stuff. So, and I should have my own room, which is going to be really nice. So this is where I'll be stopping on night 2. Day 3 is going to be my cultural day, and also obviously nature is going to be part of just about every single ride on this road. I'll be heading out onto this little peninsula, this spit. I'll be heading to Lake Akan here. I'll be finishing out in Lake Akan. And Lake Akan is famous for the lake is absolutely beautiful. It's just amazing, just the blue colors and everything. But they also have a really cool, interesting, like a cultural center that really displays the traditional Ainu culture that I'll be going through and walking through that as well too. Then I'll be heading back out on my day 3 here, which will take me around the famous Kusharo Lake. This is going to be a very beautiful ride here too. Now this is a bit shorter. It's going to be at 299 kilometers, and that's because I want to be able to get to my hotel. That's going to be up here. Nichino de Misaki, I think, is the area. So again, I want to show you guys different ways that you can stay throughout Japan. So this is going to include rather nice hotels. It'll include the minshuku, it'll include camping, it's going to include rider houses. So just to give you a flavor of kind of everything. And this night I'll be staying at a rather nice hotel. That is because I need some really good rest for this day, because on day 5, I will be riding, I'll be doing a lot of off-roading on this day. There's going to be probably about 100 kilometers of off-road. Yeah, so the off-road sections begin here. I've got a really nice little stretch of off-road here. It's going to be about 30 kilometers, the Sanru Rindo. I'm coming down here, and then I'll be hitting up the Hakodake pass, which should be pretty beautiful. So lots and lots of off-road riding this day. It should be really fun, but I'm going to be super tired because this is a long day. I've got over 300, almost 400 kilometers of riding, which is going to take me to the very most northern tip of Japan. And then I'm going to be coming down into Wakkanai, and I'll be staying here at kind of a quasi-rider house, but it's more like a youth hostel. But it should be pretty cool. Hoping to meet maybe some people there as well too. And then finally, and then on my day 6 here, I'll be heading along the coast here on the west. This is a really beautiful scenic route. It's going to be all on road though for the most part of this day. And then I'll head down into the Daisetsuzan National Park area, where I will be staying in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful campsite here that will have just an amazing view of this mountain range. Absolutely amazing. So I'll be staying at this campsite. It's 500 yen. That's like $3. $3. And I didn't have to have a reservation. She's just like, yeah, just come. There's so many places open. Just pitch your tent. You're good to go. So beautiful. Should be really fun. There's going to be an onsen here too, hot springs, so I should be able to have a nice bath here. That should be pretty fun. And then day 7, I will be doing a little bit more off-road here. You can see some off-road sections down here too as well. And I'm going to be heading into Sapporo, and I'm going to finish my trip with the Hokkaido Shrine. So I'll be thanking the Hokkaido gods for an amazing trip. And from there, I will head down into Tomakomai, hop on the ferry, and head back home. So what am I going to be using to essentially get myself from point A to point B? What am I going to use to display? Well, to put it straight and simple, I use my phone. It's as simple as that, you guys. I use a phone. It works great. I've never had any issues. There's a function in here where you can download portions of maps, so you don't have to download the entire world map. Yeah, so you can see I've got this whole area downloaded to my phone. The nice thing is there's really no plugging in. It's all in the cloud. Everything just gets updated automatically. The other nice thing too is Gaia GPS just recently added turn-by-turn directions along your route, which is really nice. The other thing that I use too, just as a backup, is I use a Garmin InReach Mini. I have the Mini 1, and I use that just as a backup. So I'll export these files, and I'll import them into the Explorer app, Garmin Explorer app. So I've got everything, all my routes, all my waypoints, everything. This is really nice too because it's also updated in the application on my phone, which then connects through via Bluetooth to the InReach, and it automatically uploads everything to the InReach. Now, I don't have turn-by-turn on the InReach, but I do have navigation, so it'll give me an arrow. So if my phone goes kaput, I do have the InReach available to guide me where I need to go. Now, the service areas in Hokkaido are relatively decent. I have SoftBank, which probably has the best coverage of all, but you can see there are several areas here that I'll be traveling through that have very long 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100-kilometer areas where I will not have any service at all. So it's important to have a downloaded map or have a GPS unit when you go to Hokkaido. And if you're traveling alone like I am, make sure that you have some type of messaging app or SOS, some way that you can do SOS. And obviously I get that done with my Garmin InReach Mini. So I just wanted to show you kind of how I mount everything. You can see kind of my whole setup here for navigation. So my main navigation unit here will be my cell phone, which is mounted to a quad lock system. And then when conditions are super bright, I've also got this bookmark style sun hood that I actually have some industrial strength Velcro that will attach to the back of the phone here. So if the conditions you know, are really bright outside, I've got this nice little sun hood that will help just kind of keep everything visible on the phone there. The other thing too that I use, again, as I mentioned, is the InReach Mini down here that I've connected to a GoPro mount. I don't know if I'm going to keep this here because, well, it's an SOS device. It's kind of designed to be on the person, on the rider. And that's just because, well, I don't want it to happen. But if the bike goes off a cliff and you don't, and you've got this attached to your bike, there's really no way that you can use the SOS function on that. So more than likely, I'll probably just put this on me somewhere on my jacket. But if my phone were to go kaput and I needed some navigation somehow, then definitely this would get me, I think, where I need to go for sure. Finally, as I mentioned, I've got a physical map. This is day one. It's kind of, you got to twist it this way. This will be day one for me, traveling from Tomakomai over here all the way up into Obihiro, which is up in this area too. So this is my navigation setup. I'm hoping this will get me from point A to point B where I need to get to in a timely, organized, and adventuristic manner. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to the computer. Well, I think that's it, you guys. This is pretty much wraps up the navigation section for my Hokkaido trip. It's a bit of a long video, but I hope this is useful for you guys if you're planning a trip to Japan or Hokkaido in general. I'm really excited to get out here and make this adventure happen. And, you know, not every adventure is the same. Not everyone plans the same way. This is how I plan. This is just my method. And obviously, it just depends on what kind of adventure you're looking for. My adventure is to bring Hokkaido to you guys through amazing footage, a story. I want to tell a story. And so that certainly has an effect on the way that I plan my adventure out here, plan my maps too as well. So whatever you do, it's probably going to look a little bit different than mine. But the main thing certainly is to just be flexible, keep a couple days open at the end of your trip too as well. And again, some of those tips, the map book and some of these websites that I gave you too as well, certainly are really, really helpful. But yeah, should be pretty exciting. I'm really excited to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. While I'm on this trip, I'll be releasing some content, probably photos, maybe a couple videos here and there. But for the most part, I will leave the main production for when I come back, as I want to tie this into a narrative, a story to tell that'll hopefully, well, I know it will, because I will make sure it will, that will tell a great story. It'll motivate you guys and hopefully inspire you to come out here and do something similar. All right, you guys, so until next time, this is ADV in Japan, out.